The Great Hall of the Galactic War Council was filled with noise and tension. Representatives from more than 100 different species had gathered from all corners of the galaxy. They were there to decide how to fight the rising threat, the Synth Dominion. This enemy was a powerful army of machines with a single goal: to control all living things and destroy anyone who stood in their way. Leaders from many planets had already shown their weapons and soldiers. There were towering war machines taller than buildings, armies of fierce soldiers in shining armor, ships armed with energy weapons that could blast a moon apart. When it was Earth's turn to present, Ambassador Kira Malin stood in front of the council. She was calm but confident. Behind her, a large screen showed images of Earth's contribution to the fight. But it was not a fleet of giant warships or massive robots. Instead, it showed a group of tiny machines no bigger than a backpack. These were the drones of the tiny army. The council erupted with laughter. The Brakar generals, towering creatures covered in armor, shook their heads in disbelief. The insect-like Zelva clicked their mandibles in amusement. Even the cold, calculating core robots made sounds that could only be described as mocking. "How can such small machines fight the Dominion?" sneered one of the Brakar generals. His deep voice echoed in the hall. "Are these your warriors, Earth?" Another leader laughed. "They look like toys." Kira stood firm, her eyes steady. "They are not toys," she said clearly. "Inside every one of these tiny machines is a human soldier, trained, smart, and ready to fight." The laughter grew louder. One of the insectoid leaders said, "Humans? You expect us to believe that flesh and blood can defeat machines designed for war?" Kira smiled slightly. "Humans have fought with their minds and hearts for thousands of years. We may be small, but we are fast, clever, and brave. We adapt. We do not just follow orders, and we think." Despite her words, the council dismissed Earth's offer. The other leaders continued to talk about their own armies and weapons. They made plans without including the tiny army, but Kira knew better. She had seen what her soldiers could do. She had trained with them. The human pilots who controlled these tiny drones were connected to their machines through advanced technology. Their minds worked as one with their drones. While other armies focused on strength and numbers, humanity focused on precision, intelligence, and creativity. Outside the council chamber, a group of humans gathered quietly. They were young, but their faces showed determination. Each one was a pilot of a tiny army drone. They were ready to prove the galaxy wrong. One of them, a young woman named Maya, looked up at the stars outside the window. "We may be small," she said softly, "but we are not weak." The council meeting ended. But the war was far from over. The next days were filled with preparation. The coalition planned their attack on Derek 9, a key planet where the Dominion was gathering forces. This planet was critical because it controlled access to many other star systems. Huge warships moved into position above Derek 9. Armies prepared to land. Everyone expected a great battle, but no one talked about the tiny army. Kira met with her human pilots in a hidden base deep under the surface of the command ship. The base was small, cramped, but full of energy. "This is our chance," she told them. "The galaxy doubts us. They laugh at our size. But that is our strength." The pilots listened carefully. They knew the risks. The Dominion was dangerous. Their machines could destroy entire cities without breaking a sweat. But the humans had one advantage: their minds. "Our drones are not just machines," Kira continued. "They are extensions of ourselves. When you are inside your drone, you are the pilot and the soldier. You are the eyes, the ears, and the hands. You will move quickly and strike where the enemy least expects." Maya stood at attention. "We will make them see," she said. "We will show them that humans fight differently. We fight smart." On the day of deployment, the human drones were loaded onto small transports. They were sent down to Derek 9 with little fanfare. No one paid much attention. The huge coalition forces landed and moved forward in powerful formations. The massive mechs and tanks took the lead, firing weapons that shook the ground. The tiny army was different. They moved quietly, hidden by the ruins of old buildings. They slipped through narrow streets and broken tunnels. Their size allowed them to go where no large machine could follow. Inside their control seats, the human pilots felt the cold metal of their drones. They could see through the eyes of their machines and feel every movement. Their mission was simple: slow down the Dominion advance and protect the retreating coalition forces. At first, it seemed impossible. The Dominion machines were huge and heavily armed. They crushed anything in their path, but the tiny army was patient. The humans watched and waited. The first sign of success came when a group of Dominion scouts entered the ruins. These scouts were fast and deadly. They searched for weaknesses in the coalition defenses. One by one, the tiny drones struck. A flash of light, a sudden explosion, and the scouts were destroyed or disabled before they could send reports back to their commanders. The Dominion forces grew confused. Without accurate information, their larger machines began to move slowly, unsure of what lay ahead. The tiny army used this chance to strike deeper. They sabotaged supply lines, destroyed power nodes, and hacked communication signals. The Dominion machines lost power in places. Their weapons stopped working. The battle changed. The humans moved like shadows. They used speed, skill, and teamwork. Each pilot knew the other's moves before they happened. No one expected this from the tiny army. Back on the command ship, Kira watched the battle unfold on her screen. She saw the Dominion's forces faltering. She saw her soldiers fighting with courage and skill. A smile crossed her face. "This is only the beginning," she whispered. The Council may have laughed. The galaxy may have doubted. But the tiny army was ready to show what humanity could do. And the war was far from over. The stars shone brightly over Derek 9, a planet caught in the middle of a great war. This was the place where the coalition of many species planned to stop the growing power of the Synth Dominion. The Dominion was a dangerous enemy, made up of machines that worked together like one mind. They destroyed everything in their path, and few had ever dared to fight them and live. On the command ship above the planet, commanders watched the battle unfold below. Huge fleets and armies landed on the surface, ready to defend the planet. Massive mechs taller than buildings marched forward. Tanks with thick armor rolled out, firing powerful weapons. Ships flew low, dropping soldiers and supplies. The battle for Derek 9 was about to begin, but somewhere in the shadows, something different was happening. Deep in the ruins of an old city, broken by war and forgotten by many, small figures moved carefully. They were tiny machines no bigger than a large backpack. To most, they looked like small drones, almost harmless. But inside each one was a human soldier. The humans inside the drones were calm and focused. They sat in special control chairs, their minds linked directly to the machines they controlled. This was not like any normal war. These soldiers could feel every movement of their tiny machines like they were their own bodies. They could see with the drone's eyes and react instantly to every danger. The coalition had not made a big announcement about these human units. Many thought they were only simple drones. After all, how could something so small fight in such a huge war? The humans had trained for years in virtual reality, learning how to fight inside these tiny machines. They learned to think fast, act quickly, and use the environment to their advantage. Their machines were small but smart. They could sneak through tight spaces, hide under rubble, and move quickly without being seen. The humans called themselves the Tiny Army, but no one else had taken them seriously yet. Many in the coalition did not even know they existed. As the main battle started, the huge armies faced the full force of the Synth Dominion. Giant war machines of the Dominion marched forward without fear, their weapons cutting through the coalition's front lines. The massive mechs and tanks tried to hold the enemy back, but the Dominion's forces were too strong. In just a few hours, the coalition's main forces began to fall back. Soldiers retreated to safer positions and commanders called for reinforcements. The situation looked grim, but in the ruins of the city, the tiny army prepared to act. The human soldiers in their tiny drones were ready. They had one clear goal: stop the Dominion from gaining ground and protect the coalition's retreat. Without waiting for orders, the tiny army moved out. They climbed over broken walls and through dark tunnels. Their small size allowed them to go where larger machines could not. They used every shadow and every piece of cover to stay hidden. The first targets were the Dominion scouts, small, fast machines sent to find weak points. The tiny army set traps and waited patiently. When the scouts came close, the humans attacked with precision. A sudden burst of energy from a tiny drone destroyed a scout's sensor, blinding it. Another drone threw a small explosive that disabled the scouts' movement. One by one, the scouts fell, unable to report back to their commanders. The Dominion's forces grew confused. Without their scouts, their large war machines started moving blindly. The human drones used this to their advantage. They split into small groups and moved quickly, hitting the Dominion supply lines and communication devices. The machines that supplied the enemy with energy and ammo were hidden deep underground. The humans used their small size to sneak in and plant explosives. One drone climbed inside a giant power generator. The human pilot carefully moved through narrow tunnels, avoiding patrols. When the drone reached the core, the pilot activated a powerful charge. The generator exploded, cutting off power to a large section of the Dominion's forces. The enemy war machines suddenly lost their weapons and stopped moving. At the same time, other human drones used electronic jammers. These devices sent out signals that confused the Dominion's tactical systems. The machines started attacking each other by mistake or stopped moving entirely. The humans worked like a well-oiled machine. Though small and scattered, their actions were perfectly coordinated. They sent signals back and forth, telling each other where to go and what to do. They adjusted quickly when new threats appeared. Unlike the large coalition forces, the tiny army did not depend on heavy weapons or numbers. They depended on their intelligence, speed, and courage. For the first time, the Synth Dominion faced an enemy that could think and adapt as fast as they did. The battle went on for hours. From above, coalition commanders watched with surprise. The Dominion forces had expected to crush everything quickly. Instead, they saw parts of their lines falling apart. Their machines moved slowly, unsure where the next attack would come from. Kira Malin, the human ambassador and leader of the tiny army, sat calmly in her command center. She watched every move, ready to send help or change plans. Her faith in the human soldiers was strong. "They are doing exactly what we trained for," she said quietly. Her words were filled with pride. In one moment, a drone piloted by a young soldier named Alex spotted a group of Dominion war machines trying to regroup near an old factory. The machines were large and heavily armed, but Alex did not hesitate. Using the drone's speed and agility, Alex led the group on a chase through narrow alleys and rubble. The Dominion machines were too big to follow and soon got stuck. Then, with a sudden burst, Alex attacked. A small missile from his drone hit the enemy's weak spot, causing an explosion that damaged their weapons. The rest of the human drones joined the attack, targeting the machine's sensors and engines. The Dominion war machines were forced to retreat. Across the battlefield, other human pilots used similar tactics. They attacked from unexpected places, disappeared into the ruins, and struck again. By nightfall, the tide of the battle had changed. The Dominion no longer advanced. Instead, they held their ground, trying to repair their damaged machines. The coalition forces, inspired by the tiny army's success, started moving forward again. The larger mechs and soldiers regained hope, knowing they were not alone. Kira sent a message to the coalition commanders. "Human soldiers are inside these tiny drones," she explained. "They are not machines. They think, feel, and fight with skill. We have only just begun." The commanders were stunned. Some had doubted Earth's contribution, but now they had to admit that humans were more than just a small part of the battle. They were a force to be respected. Far from the battle, in the quiet rooms of the human command center, the pilots smiled. They knew the fight was not over. The tiny army was ready for whatever came next. The battle for Derek 9 was fierce and unrelenting. Giant war machines clashed with bursts of energy, and the air was thick with smoke and the sound of explosions. The coalition forces struggled to hold their ground against the relentless advance of the Synth Dominion. The large mechs and tanks fought hard, but slowly they were pushed back. The Dominion's machines seemed to work like one mind, striking with speed and power. In the ruins of the city, the tiny army moved carefully. Their small size gave them an advantage in the maze of broken buildings and twisted metal. They used this to their benefit. No large machine could follow them through narrow alleys or climb over piles of rubble. The human pilots inside the drones controlled their units with calm focus. Their mission was clear: stop the Dominion advance by any means necessary. The Dominion commanders believed the city was nearly theirs. They saw the larger coalition forces retreating and believed victory was close. But they did not see the tiny army waiting in the shadows. One of the human pilots, a young man named Alex, led a small group of drones toward a key supply depot. This depot supplied energy to the Dominion's front lines. Without it, many machines would lose power and become useless. Alex's drone slipped through a broken wall and moved quickly toward the depot. The pilot's mind was calm but alert. Every movement was precise. The drone's small size helped it avoid detection. As they reached the depot, Alex signaled the other drones. Together, they planted small explosive charges on the energy conduits. The explosives were designed to cause a controlled blast that would disable the depot without destroying the whole area. Minutes later, the charges went off. A loud explosion rocked the city, and the Dominion machines near the depot suddenly lost power. Their weapons shut down, and many ground to a halt. The effect was immediate. Without energy, the Dominion forces began to retreat from their positions. The coalition forces saw the change and started moving forward again. But the tiny army did not stop there. They had another plan. Deep inside the ruins was the Dominion's command node. This was a machine that controlled many of the smaller units, sending orders and coordinating attacks. Destroying the command node would disrupt the Dominion's whole operation. Alex and his team prepared for the most dangerous part of their mission. They moved carefully, using every piece of cover. The command node was guarded by heavy machines and security systems. But the humans were not afraid. Using a combination of stealth and clever tricks, they avoided patrols and traps. They hacked into the enemy's sensors, creating false signals and hiding their movements. When they reached the command node, Alex's drone climbed up the side of the machine. Using its tools, the drone found a weak point in the armor, a small panel that protected the core processor. With a steady hand, Alex placed a fusion charge inside the panel. The timer was set. The team retreated quickly, moving back through the maze of rubble. Seconds later, the charge exploded. The command node was destroyed in a burst of fire and sparks. Without their command machine, the Dominion's forces became confused and disorganized. Many of their units stopped moving or attacked their own machines by mistake. The tiny army used this chaos to their advantage. They moved through the enemy lines, destroying key targets and freeing captured coalition soldiers. The coalition forces, inspired by this sudden turn, pushed forward with new hope. They began to reclaim lost ground. Kira watched the battle with pride. She knew the human pilots were making a difference. They fight not just with machines, she said, but with their minds and hearts. The dust had barely settled over Derek 9 when the news began to spread. Whispers moved through the coalition ranks like a rising wind. The Dominion had fallen back. Not because of the heavy mechs, not because of powerful ships, but because of something far smaller and far more human. On board the command ship Solaris, the mood had changed. Only days ago, the council members had laughed at Earth's tiny army, but now their laughter had disappeared. Confusion and disbelief replaced it. "How is this possible?" asked General Rark, the tall, armored warrior from the Brakar species. "We saw the Dominion overrun our strongest line." Then suddenly, they stopped. The insectoid Zelva leader buzzed in agreement, and they retreated, without reason. In the center of the council room, Kira Malin stood again, just as calm and confident as before. But this time no one laughed. "I told you," she said, gently tapping a button on her wrist device. The large screen behind her flickered to life. The council members leaned forward. The screen showed a dusty street on Derek 9. Broken buildings surrounded it. From the shadows, a tiny human drone darted across the road. It was small, fast, and almost invisible. Then the view changed. It was now from inside the drone. The pilot's breathing could be heard. Calm, focused. Every move was smooth. The drone approached a towering Dominion war machine. It was 3 times taller than a human tank, covered in thick armor. But the human pilot didn't run. Instead, the drone climbed the machine like a spider, step by step. Silently, the pilot found a small opening near a cooling vent. From a compartment, the drone pulled out a mini fusion charge no larger than a soda can. It placed it inside the vent, jumped off, and rolled behind a broken wall. Boom! The Dominion machine exploded from within. A single blast. Perfectly placed. Gasps filled the council room. The footage changed again. This time, dozens of drones were shown sneaking through city ruins, disabling Dominion power lines, hijacking control systems, and jamming communication signals. "This is what humans do," Kira said. "We don't just follow orders. We think, we adapt. And when we're cornered, we don't give up. We strike harder." The room was silent. For the first time, the other leaders truly understood what they were seeing. These were not ordinary drones. They were tools, extensions of human will and intelligence. A soft voice broke the silence. It was General Serene, the strategist from the water world of Varec 6. You sent your best warriors into the bodies of small machines. You gave them no shields, no heavy armor, just their minds and a mission. Kira nodded. Yes, and that was all they needed. Down in the human sector of the command ship, the pilots of the tiny army were resting. Some sat in silence, others cleaned their gear, and a few watched news updates on nearby screens. They had won a small victory, but they knew the war was not over. Maya, one of the youngest but most skilled pilots, leaned back in her chair, still wearing her neural headset. She had been part of the team that destroyed the Dominion's command node. Her teammate Raj smiled. They're calling us ghosts on the battlefield now. Silent death from the shadows. Not bad for an army no one believed in, Maya chuckled. Let them talk. We'll just keep doing the work. Their commander, Captain Nolan, stepped into the room. His face was proud but serious. Debriefing in 10 minutes, he said. But first I want to say one thing. Everyone looked at him. You made history down there, he continued. And not just by winning a battle. You changed the way the galaxy sees humanity. They thought we were weak, that we didn't belong on the battlefield, but you showed them what we're really made of. The room was filled with quiet pride, no cheers, no celebration, just the strong silence of warriors who knew their worth. Back in the council room, the Brakar general broke the silence. We underestimated you, he said to Kira. All of us did. Kira gave a small smile. It's easy to miss something small when you're only looking for something big. Another leader asked, can these human soldiers be trained across other worlds? Could other species use this drone system? Kira paused for a moment. Our technology could be shared, she said carefully, but our strength isn't just in the machines. It's in the people piloting them. The human mind, with all its instincts, emotions, and unpredictability, is what makes the difference. The council members nodded slowly. The next day, the coalition planned a new mission. Another Dominion fleet was approaching a nearby system, and they needed a team to strike first in a fast, precise operation to disable their communication towers before the fleet could coordinate. Normally, they would send a full squadron of warships, but this time, they looked to the tiny army. Captain Nolan received the call. Kira briefed him personally. We need your team to move in fast, she said. In and out, no trace. Hit the towers, confuse their signals, and get out before they know what happened. He nodded. You'll have it done before breakfast. Kira looked at him seriously. This isn't just another mission. The council is watching. If we succeed again, they'll start giving humans a seat at the main war table. Nolan raised an eyebrow. And if we fail? We don't fail, she said simply. As the human drones prepared for launch, Maya tightened her gloves and checked her neural link. Raj stood beside her, grinning. Ready to make ghosts out of them again? She smiled. Always. The tiny army launched in silence, hidden in stealth transports. As they left the hangar, the rest of the coalition forces stood quietly, watching them go. No more jokes. No more laughter, only respect. Meanwhile, deep in the dark space beyond Varec 9, the synth Dominion studied the battlefield data. Their calculations failed to explain what had happened. The human drones had acted unlike any enemy they had ever seen. Fast, random, intelligent, illogical. One of the Dominion's high AIs ran the data again and again, but the answer was always unclear. Eventually, it logged a new warning in its system. Threat update species, human behavior, unpredictable risk level, escalated recommendation, avoid close engagement. The machines had begun to fear what they did not understand, and they didn't understand humanity. The stars around Varec 9 were peaceful once again, but the war was far from over. The synth Dominion had not been defeated completely, but something had changed. For the first time in many years, the machines had taken a step back. They had paused, not because of a massive weapon or a new technology, but because of something they could not understand: humans. Small, unpredictable, brave, and now, feared. On the coalition flagship, the mood was different than before. The commanders and generals who once mocked Earth's tiny army now watched every report from the battlefield closely. Each time a mission succeeded, the question was the same. Was it the humans? Yes. Again and again, it was the humans. Ambassador Kira Malin walked down the main hall toward the war chamber. Her uniform was simple, but her presence was strong. The guards at the door stepped aside without a word. She entered. Inside, the leaders from over 100 alien worlds were already gathered. This was a special session of the Galactic War Council. At the center of the room, a large display showed a glowing red area, the next major target. A Dominion control hub located in the Naros system. It was heavily guarded, and it controlled several drone fleets that had destroyed dozens of planets. General Rark, the Brakar warlord, stepped forward. He looked at Kira with a nod of respect. "We request Earth's guidance for this operation," he said. "The tiny army will lead the strike." Gasps filled the room. Not of disbelief this time, but of surprise that such words came from Rark himself. Kira stepped forward. "We will take the lead," she said calmly, "but we ask that this mission be fought together, not just by humans, but by all who believe in a different way of fighting." General Serene of Varric 6 agreed. "Yes, let the Dominion see what happens when we combine our strengths, not just size or power, but speed, skill, and mind." Operation Silent Flame was born, a united task force led by the tiny army, supported by elite teams from multiple species trained in stealth and precision. The plan was simple but dangerous. Infiltrate the Naros system silently, disable the central AI hub, and get out before the Dominion could react. Captain Nolan, Maya, Raj, and the rest of the human pilots were already preparing. Inside the hangar, the humans were joined by newly trained alien units, small teams from other species who had studied human methods. Their drones were similar now, redesigned using Earth's technology. Maya looked at one of the Zelva pilots, a young female soldier with fast reflexes. "Nervous?" Maya asked. The insectoid nodded. "A little, but also ready." "That's all it takes," Maya replied with a grin. "Just don't blink too much. The enemy doesn't wait." As the strike team entered Dominion space, silence filled the ship. No alarms, no radio chatter. Only the hum of engines and the soft beeping of systems. The Naros control hub was a massive structure floating in space. It looked like a giant black crystal, surrounded by spinning satellites and glowing energy shields. Dozens of Dominion ships guarded it. Hundreds of drones patrolled the area. The tiny army had a plan. They split into 3 small squads. Each group would enter from a different angle. The Dominion's defenses would be focused on protecting the front, but the humans, and their new allies, would come from the sides and below, where surveillance was weaker. Nolan's team flew in through a debris field, using broken metal and dust clouds to hide their movement. Maya and Raj, leading their group, flew close to an energy pipe running along the base of the structure. It was risky, but it gave them a direct path to the core. As they reached the base, they launched their drones. Tiny machines dropped silently onto the surface of the Dominion hub. They crawled like insects across walls, avoiding laser sensors and turrets. Inside their control chairs, the pilots stayed focused. "Charge planted," Maya whispered. "Jammer active," Raj added. "Moving to core access point," Nolan said over the secure link. One by one, they reached their targets, and then all at once they struck. Explosions lit up the base. Jammers blocked the AI's commands. Power lines shut down. Control systems went dark. The Dominion's entire defense grid froze for 90 seconds. It was just enough the human and alien drones uploaded a virus into the mainframe. A virus designed by human engineers back on Earth. It didn't destroy the AI. It confused it. To the Dominion, the data became unclear. Friend looked like enemy. Orders were flipped. Warnings were silent. By the time the AI tried to recover, the task force was already gone. Back on the flagship, the room erupted in applause. The Naros hub was not destroyed, but it was broken. Without its control, the Dominion's local forces scattered. It would take months for them to reorganize. More importantly, the coalition had sent a message. "We are not afraid of you anymore." Kira stood before the council once again. "We were mocked for our size, laughed at for our methods. But today your soldiers fought beside ours, and they saw the truth." She looked around the room, her voice steady. "Humanity does not win by being the biggest. We win because we learn, we adapt. We never stop trying." There was silence. Then General Rark stood. He lifted his armored fist and said, "To humanity, The council repeated, louder this time. To humanity. That night, in the human sector, Maya and Raj sat quietly looking out at the stars. Do you think they'll ever laugh at us again? Raj asked. Maya smirked. Maybe, but not for the same reasons. Do you think the war is over? No, she said. But now, they believe in us. And that changes everything. Captain Nolan joined them holding a small tablet. The council approved it, he said. Earth gets a seat on the high command. Maya's eyes widened. Really? Nolan nodded. We're not just part of the fight now. We're leading it. The stars shone brightly above them, calm for now. But they all knew the peace would not last forever. And that was okay, because the galaxy had learned a lesson it would never forget. Never underestimate the humans, no matter how small their machines, or how tiny their army.